guys, Brad from simpleguitar.com here, and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be talking about strum patterns when you're just starting out playing chords on the guitar. And we're going to go over something that I think most people skip. I know I did for a long time with students, but I found it helps make every strum pattern and your sense of timing and rhythm so much better. So we're going to go over that today. Now, before we dive in though, I do want to let you know about a gift that I have for you at my website. If you go to simpleguitar.com/top10, there you can get my guide, The Top 10 Things to Learn on Guitar First. And that guide will help you get up and get musical on the guitar a whole lot faster. It gives you a lot of practical stuff that you can just start doing right away to start having more fun and making more real music on the guitar right away. So go to simpleguitar.com/top10, pick up that guide and have fun with it. It's my way of saying thank you to you for being here and watching this video today. Now let's go ahead and dive back into these strum patterns. All right, so first of all, before we dive into the strum patterns, there's one thing that a lot of guitar teachers do, and I know I did for a long time, is we take for granted what it is like to be a beginner playing guitar. It's called expert amnesia. And I'm always trying to think about this, like, what am I taking for granted when I'm teaching something? And this is one of the biggest things that we take for granted as guitar teachers is our sense of rhythm and timing. Now, once you've been playing guitar for a while, or you've been playing music for a while, you start to develop a natural sense for rhythm. But a lot of beginners don't have that when they start out. So how do we develop that? Well, learning these strum patterns is going to be one way to help you develop an inner sense of rhythm and timing. And we're going to start way back in the beginning where most guitar teachers skip. And I did this myself for years. I was working on taking some students through the strum pattern for a specific song, and it turned out that we had skipped the most fundamental basic piece of knowledge, and these students who'd been playing for a while could already do some good stuff, found it difficult to do the most basic thing on the guitar. So that's where we're going to start. The biggest thing you have to understand is when it comes to rhythm on the guitar, it's all about time. Just like we keep track of time with seconds and minutes and hours, in music, we keep track of time with different rhythms. So the most basic sense of time in music is the beat. And the beat is going to determine how fast or how slow the song is. But every song has a beat. And the first thing you need to do is you need to learn how to identify and feel that beat. So whenever you're listening to music, what I want you to do is tap your foot to the beat, tap your fingers to the beat, do something to try to find the beat. That's the most important thing, because then every rhythm that you hear or that you play is based on that beat. So to make that easier, something that you can do is use a metronome. Now, I just use a metronome app on my phone. There's tons of them. They're all pretty dang good nowadays. For when they first started coming out, they were terrible, and I still used an external metronome, but now they're actually pretty dang good. So just get a metronome app on your phone. I don't care which one. But what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure that you can accent beat number 1 in your phone. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be doing everything in 4/4 time. So that means we're going to have 4 beats in every measure that we play. Now, a quick note with all of these strum patterns, each one of these patterns is going to be equal to one measure that is 4 beats long. So for every single one of these, every strum pattern is going to be 1 measure long, and that pattern will then repeat. Now, here are the chords that I'm going to use today, and it's really simple. These chords make up the most common chord progression of all time. So what you're going to do is we're just going to have a standard G chord, a D chord, an E minor chord, and a C chord. And I'm just going to play them in that order because that is the most common chord progression of all time. So getting that one down is going to be crucial for you. And just by doing that, you can play thousands of songs. It's awesome. Now let's get started with strum pattern number 1. This is one of the most basic fundamental rhythms, and most guitar players and guitar teachers skip it, but we aren't going to. We're going to do it today. And that is playing whole notes. Now, whole notes in music take up 4 beats. So what we're going to do is I'm going to set a metronome on my phone really quick so that you get a sense of the beat, right? So here is my metronome going on my phone, and I have it accenting beat number 1, right? So you can count it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And this right now is just at 100 beats per minute. So that is the measurement of how fast or how slow it is. You can do it slower on your metronome, and you want to practice doing it faster as well. But for this is what we're going to use for right now. And this will help you learn to hear and feel the beat more. But with our whole note strum pattern, what we're going to do is we're only going to do one strum. We're going to do a single downstroke with the chord, and we're going to let it ring out for the rest of the measure. So we're going to hit our chord on beat 1 and then hold it out for 2, 3, 4. So with the metronome, that'll sound like this. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? That's if I just hang out on a G chord. Now let's do our chord progression of G, D, E minor, C. And that'll go like this. 3, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Now that is a super simple, super easy strum pattern. But here's the thing, you actually hear that get played in songs. Since it is the most fundamental thing for you to feel that beat, to be able to go and hit the chord on beat 1 and hold it out for 2, 3, 4, and then change and hit the next chord in time for the next beat 1, that is the fundamental thing that if you get that down, that's going to make every strum pattern and changing chords with every strum pattern a whole lot easier. So don't overlook this one just because it's simple. So strum pattern number 1 is just whole notes. You can do that with this chord progression that we're playing today, G, D, E minor, C. You can do it with any other chord progression, but don't overlook how important it is to be able to do that. Now, strum pattern number 2 is going to be half notes. So we're doing half notes, which are half of a whole. So we're going to be playing 2 beats. So in this case, I'm going to play my chord on beat number 1, hold it out through beat number 2, play it again on beat number 3, and then hold it out for beat number 4. Okay. And so I'll do this with the metronome again so that you can hear it. And let's just do it with the chord progression. Okay. 1, 2, 3, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So again, that one is super simple, super basic. But doing it in time and getting the chord changes on time and hitting it on beat 1 and hitting it on beat 3 are important. But this one is a little bit harder because you have to change faster than when you are doing your whole notes. So practice strum pattern number 2, doing half notes on beat number 1 and beat number 3. And again, you can use this chord progression or any other chord progression. So strum pattern number 3, this is where most people start, is they start with strum pattern number 3, which is just straight quarter notes doing downstrokes on every single beat. And so what we're doing is we're just playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And with the metronome, this helps you get that feel down. Make sure you're hitting it right when it clicks or it beeps, okay? But with the metronome, it's gonna sound like this. 1, 2, 3, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is the strum pattern that most people start out with. And it's really good, but it's a lot harder to change chords when you're playing quarter notes than when you're playing a whole note. Now, for me, I started out actually playing piano for a couple of years, and then I played percussion in band at school and played the drums. And so for me, when I started playing guitar, I knew whole notes and half notes and stuff, but I get that not everybody starting out playing guitar has a musical background and has, doesn't have a musical family like me, or has zero experience at all with music. And so that's why I think it's important that we bring up doing the whole notes and doing the half notes before we get to doing these quarter notes. And even if you do have a musical background or you've played a little bit before, doing the whole notes, doing the half notes are going to make your quarter notes and your eighth notes and everything else sound a whole lot better, because it's going to work on that internal sense of rhythm and timing and make you more solid. So practice strum pattern number 3, which is just quarter notes, and you can do that with this chord progression or any other chord progression. Now, let's talk about chord progression number 4, where we're actually gonna change it up a little bit. Now, at this point, most people start adding in different upstrokes on different beats. You might get like 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, right? But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you what I think the 4th strum pattern you should get down is, and that is straight eighth notes. And that is doing down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So you're playing down on the beat on 1, 2, 3, 4. And so it's the same with your quarter notes. You're still hitting down on each beat. So you're still going 1, 2, 3, 4. But now in between every downstroke, when your hand comes back up to start that next downstroke, you're going to hit the strings and do an upstroke. But only hit 2 or 3, right? Just lightly. Don't hit all the strings. You'll sound like a goober. But this is what I think should be the next one that you do is. And it's actually not as bad as it sounds. So what you're going to do really slowly, you're going to go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So we count these other notes that are in between the beats as and. And what we're technically playing here are called eighth notes, because there's 8 of them that make up this full measure. And so each one is 1/8 of the measure. So it's called an eighth note. Okay. So that's where that comes from. So with this, with a chord, it's going to sound like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1. Now that was a little bit slower, but getting this strum pattern down is actually going to be one of the biggest things for you, because it's from this strum pattern that we can extrapolate and pull out any other strum pattern that's based on these eighth notes. So being used to doing that and getting used to that down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, that's really going to be crucial, because if you can't get your hand used to going down, up, down, up, down, up, it's going to make every other strum pattern a whole lot harder, because your hand is going to want to like pause when it needs to be moving and just not hitting the strings. So get used to doing down, up, down, up, down, up by playing this first, and that'll make all the subsequent strum patterns a whole lot easier. So this strum pattern with the metronome will sound like this: 1, 2, 3, go. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can start slower, because I know that was a little bit quick. So you can start slower, but then you do want to get things up and faster and sounding more natural, so that you're really that's one of the best strum patterns to have down, period. Okay, now we're going to go on to where the books that I learned from when I was teaching myself back in the day, this is where they went after doing quarter notes. And that is taking these quarter note strums and actually just doing a few upstrokes here and there. So for example, there's this strum pattern where you're going to go 1, 2, and 3, 4, 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 1. So for this, we're playing 1, 2, and 3, 4. So we're strumming down on 1, 2, 3, 4, and we have one upstroke on the and between 2 and 3. So we're going to go 1, 2, and 3, 4, right? Or you can sing this out and go da, digga, da, da. But you can take this drum pattern and get used to playing it with this chord progression or any other chord progression and have fun with it. Now, strum pattern number 6, really similar to number 5 that we just did, but you're going to add one more upstroke on 4 and. So we're going to have a downstroke on 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to have an upstroke on the and of 2 and an upstroke on the and of 4. So now it's going to sound like this. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 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 1. So for strum pattern 6 there, I repeated it twice, so I played each chord for 2 measures before I went on to the next one. Now for strum pattern number 7, we're going to do the same amount of down strums and up strums, but now we're going to go down on 1 and 2, and then on 3 and 4, we'll go down, up, down, up. So we'll go down on 1, 2, 3, 4, and then on the and of 3 and the and of 4, we'll do an upstroke. So that will sound like this. 1, 2, 3, go. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 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 1. And that one is actually pretty dang common. You'll see that in a lot of different songs. So that one's really good to get down. Now let's build on that a little bit more, which what we're going to do is we're going to add one more upstroke, and it is going to be on the and of 2. So we're going to go down on 1, 2, 3, 4, but now we're going to have 3 upstrokes on the and of 2, the and of 3, and the and of 4. And so we'll count it 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and down, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, up. So with the chords, it'll sound like this. 1, 2, 3, go. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 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 1. And that is really common, one of the most popular strum patterns. You can play tons of songs with that. So I recommend getting that one down really solid. Now with these next 2 strum patterns, we're going to introduce tied notes. Now I've done a whole other video on tied notes. I won't be going as deep in this video as I do in that one. So if you want to go watch that, here's the link to it. You can go watch that video about tied notes, and that will help you break down these next 2. Now, this one is probably the most common strum pattern. There's all sorts of different names for it. I hear people call it different stuff all the time, but what it is really what we're doing is we're doing a downstroke on 1 and 2 and on 4. We are not doing a downstroke on 3. You are not going to hit the strings on beat 3, but we are going to do an upstroke on the and of 2, on the and of 3, and on the and of 4. What we are doing here is we are playing the and of 2 with an upstroke, and that note is tied to beat 3. So we're going to allow the strings to ring out through beat 3 and not hit them again. So to do that, your hand will move down to get in position to play the next upstroke on the and of 3. And then you'll play down on 4 and up on the and of 4. And so with that, really slowly, this strum pattern sounds like this. 1, 2, and 4, and 1, 2, and So instead of just counting this one, you can also sing it. So instead of going 1, 2, and 4, and, you can say down, down, up, down, down, up, down, up. Or you can be a goof like me and say da, 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 da. For some reason, that makes it easier for people to understand. So that is one of the most common strum patterns. You can play just about any song with that one, but you want to get really comfortable with it and be able to play it slow and then be able to play it fast too, because that'll sound a little bit different when it's faster. So if you play that with this chord progression and you do that strum pattern, people are going to be like, hey, what song is that? I know that song, right? Now, the next strum pattern is almost the exact same as the last one. We're just adding an upstroke on the and of 1. And so we're going to go 1 and 2 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 4 and. So we're basically hitting everything like we did back in strum pattern number 4, where we just did eighth notes and we're just going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. We're just not going to hit the strings on beat number 3, which is a downstroke. So we're just going 1 and 2 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so that 3, that time for beat number 3 still has to be there. So that's why we let that ring out. So this strum pattern with the chord progression, and I'm just going to play each chord one time, is going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3, go. 1 and 2 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 4 and. Now, if you're doing these last 2 strum patterns with your metronome, you should hear the metronome on beat number 3. If you're hitting the strings on beat 3, you're not going to hear that click, right? Because if you're on time with the metronome, there's a good chance that that click is going to disappear because you're playing at the same time. It syncs up. But when you go down for beat 3 and you aren't hitting the strings, you should hear that beep or that click from your metronome on beat 3. Now, the key to all of these strum patterns today are in 4/4 time. So they all have 4 beats, and we're only going up 2 eighth notes, and we're only doing 1 measure strum patterns. Okay. So these are going to be really handy for you. You can play tons and tons of songs with them. And this really does help you begin to develop a really solid sense of timing and rhythm, which will help you with everything down the road. Honestly, that is the most important, most underrated part of playing guitar, is having good rhythm and good timing. Go practice these strum patterns. Do them with the basic chord progression that I did today. You can do them just with single chords. You can just do them with your muted strings. Whatever you want to do, okay? You can use other chord progressions, but practice them, and slow down. If you actually spend a little bit more time playing these slowly, it's going to make playing them faster a whole lot easier. So make sure you don't rush it and you don't try to play these too fast, because the most important thing is going to be getting those chord changes in time. So if you're changing your chord on beat number 1, not having to play the strum pattern and stop while you change chords, change, right? You got to do it slower so that you can get used to doing that in time. And that will make you sound awesome, which will impress everybody when you play for them. So have fun with these strum patterns, guys. Practice them, break them down, have fun with them. If you have any questions about these, do let me know down in the comments. I will get down there and answer your questions and help you out further if you need it. But do remember also about the gift that I have for you at my website. If you go to simpleguitar.com/top10, there you can pick up the top 10 things to learn on guitar first and start having a ton of fun doing some real music a whole lot faster. So go get that guide, have fun with it, have fun with these chord progressions, and I will catch you guys in the next video.